April 1945. On a narrow strip of land in the Pacific, more than 180,000 American troops step onto the shores of Okinawa in silence. No machine guns, no coastal artillery, no waves of fire cutting across the surf. Only wind, waves, and the unsettling feeling that something is waiting ahead, unseen. On a map, Okinawa is just an 82-kilometer island, the final stepping stone before the United States can strike the Japanese mainland. On paper, the operation is simple: seize the beaches, capture the airfields, establish the last great foothold of the Pacific War. But beneath the coral ridges and limestone hills lies an entire underground world: tunnels, command caves, firing chambers, dug for months under the direction of General Ushijima and his strategist, Colonel Yahara. The southern half of the island has been turned into a single massive trap. For 82 days, Okinawa will swallow Americans, Japanese, and civilians into the same pit of mud, fire, rain, and death. Kamikaze strikes at sea, cave defenses on land, entire villages caught between armies. It will become the bloodiest battle of the Pacific, and only one question remains: how high a price will the Americans have to pay to walk through this gate of blood and reach Japan itself? In early 1945, while Europe edges toward its final collapse, the Pacific is preparing for its most brutal chapter. American planners studying the map of the Ryukyu Islands know exactly what Okinawa represents: the last doorway before Japan itself. A narrow island, barely shaped like a crooked spine lying across the East China Sea. An island that, by itself, cannot win a war, but can decide how the war will end. To the Joint Chiefs, Okinawa is not geography. It is time. Time to build airfields. Time to isolate Japan from its empire one final time. Time to prepare for Operation Downfall, the invasion of Kyushu. To the Japanese High Command, Okinawa is not land. It is sacrifice. Days, weeks, months bought with blood. Every hour gained is one more hour for Japan to prepare its final stand on the homeland. Between these two visions lies a population trapped in the middle. Families, rice farmers, fishermen, students, children, over 400,000 civilians who cannot escape the storm that is coming. The island that looks small on a map will soon become the stage of the most ferocious ground combat the Pacific has ever witnessed. By March 1945, the United States has built the greatest amphibious force ever assembled in the Pacific. 180,000 men of the 10th Army, 100,000 Army troops plus 88,000 Marines, 300 warships offshore, 1,300 support vessels and landing craft, fast carrier groups controlling the sky. Admiral Raymond Spruance commands offshore. Admiral Mark Mitcher commands the carriers. Lieutenant General Simon Believer Buckner Jr. commands the landing force. No Pacific operation, Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Peleliu, Iwo Jima, matches the scale of what is coming. The American plan is methodical: land on the western beaches at Hagoshi, split the island in half, turn north to secure the Motobu Peninsula, turn south into the heart of Japanese defenses, capture Shuri Castle, nerve center of the 32nd Japanese Army, advance to the southern coast and clear the final pockets. Every airfield captured at Okinawa will shorten the distance to the Japanese mainland. Every ridge taken will help build the pressure toward the final invasion. For the Americans, Okinawa is the last climb before the summit. For the Japanese, Okinawa is the last wall before the abyss. Facing the 10th Army are 100,000 defenders of the 32nd Japanese Army, commanded by Lieutenant General Masaru Ushijima. At his side stand two men with opposite visions of how to resist the American tide. Major General Isamu Cho, a fierce believer in bold attacks and suicidal valor. Colonel Hiromichi Yahara, a realist who understands the truth. There will be no reinforcements, no evacuation, no miracles. Yahara proposes something shocking for the Japanese military at the time: a war of attrition, a deliberate, calculated, grinding defense. He knows Japan cannot defeat the American landing force on the beaches. The Americans bring battleships, bombardment groups, carrier air support, armor, artillery, amphibious waves, logistical strength beyond imagination. So Yahara makes a decision that will change the entire battle. He abandons the beaches and hides the army inland. His vision is simple. Let them come. Let them land. Then we bury them. Bunkers carved into limestone. Tunnels stretching for kilometers. Machine gun nests built into ridgelines. Observation posts disguised as natural rock. Caves with multiple exits to survive bombardment. Ushijima approves Yahara's strategy, even if it contradicts the offensive spirit of the Imperial Army. Japanese engineers and civilians dig for 6 months, through summer, fall, and winter, turning the southern half of Okinawa into a fortress made of coral and stone. This is not Iwo Jima. This is not Peleliu. This is a battlefield made to outlast everything America can throw at it. Okinawa is not built for war, yet it becomes one of the deadliest natural battlefields of the entire war. The north is dense forest, steep hills, narrow trails, minimal Japanese defense. The south is completely different, where limestone ridges, coral cliffs, ravines that feel like traps, endless cave networks, reverse slope defenses, perfect natural artillery platforms. Ridge lines run from east to west like ribs. Each ridge is a defensive line. Each ravine is a killing zone. Each cave is a bunker that cannot be destroyed by normal bombs or artillery. The terrain itself favors the defender, and the Japanese know it. As a Marine officer wrote later, the land was their silent ally. While soldiers prepare, Okinawan civilians are already living on borrowed time. Japanese propaganda spreads across the island. Americans will torture you. Americans will kill your children. Death is better than capture. Many families receive grenades, poison vials, sharpened bamboo spears. Teenage boys are mobilized into labor and combat support. Teenage girls into makeshift nursing corps. Villages are ordered to build tunnels until their hands bleed. No one on the island, Japanese or American, imagines what will happen to this civilian population. The battle has not started, yet the seeds of tragedy are already growing. In the pre-dawn darkness of April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday, warships thunder across the coastline. Battleships fire 40,000 shells. Rocket ships unleash 30,000 rockets. Carrier aircraft sweep overhead, dropping napalm that ignites the western beaches. The American landing force expects a wall of fire. Instead, silence. No machine guns. No coastal batteries. No organized resistance. Soldiers step onto the sand as if stepping into an eerie, empty world. Within hours, a beachhead 14 kilometers wide is secured. Kadena and Yantan airfields fall without a fight. The island is nearly cut in half. The first day records only 28 American casualties, the lightest major landing of the entire Pacific War. Some American officers believe the Japanese have fled. Others know better. They can feel the invisible eyes watching them from the high ground. The trap Yahara designed is now closing. That night, as American units dig in, the reality becomes clear. The Japanese have not run. They have not surrendered. They are waiting in the south, waiting in caves, waiting on ridges, waiting for the right moment to strike. The morning of April 2nd brings the first warning signs. Sniper fire from unseen positions, mortar shells from impossible angles, movements observed through distant cave openings. The descent into the southern ridges, the descent into the true Battle of Okinawa has begun, and once American troops enter that terrain, they will not emerge unchanged. By the start of April, for the United States, Okinawa is the necessary gateway. It must be taken at any cost. The war cannot end until it falls. For Japan, Okinawa cannot be saved. But it must not fall quickly. Every day of resistance delays the invasion of their homeland. For civilians, there is no safe place, no evacuation, no neutral ground. The fates of three worlds, American soldiers, Japanese defenders, Okinawan civilians, are now tied to a single island, a place that neither side truly wants, yet both are willing to destroy, in order to shape the final chapter of the Pacific War. At 8:30 a.m. on April 1st, 1945, The first waves of the 10th Army step onto Okinawa's Hagushi beaches. Thousands of landing craft grind onto the sand, their ramps falling open like steel jaws. Soldiers brace for the storm they expect, machine guns raking the surf, artillery crashing into the waves, screams blending with the blast of explosives. But the storm never comes. Only the distant rumble of naval gunfire echoes across the hills. The sand beneath their boots is untouched. The air smells of salt, not cordite. The beachhead is silent, so silent that officers exchange uneasy glances as if the island itself is holding its breath. It is an unnatural silence, a silence that masks a design far more dangerous than bullets. By noon, the reality feels almost surreal. No opposition on the western beaches. No strong points firing. No coastal guns answering the bombardment. No banzai charge countering the landing. Within hours, two crucial objectives fall into American hands. Kadena Airfield, Yuntan Airfield. Operations teams begin marking runways as if they are reclaiming abandoned property rather than invading the final bastion of the Japanese Empire. Some Marines joke it might be a trick. Others whisper that maybe the enemy has withdrawn. But the veterans who fought in Saipan, Peleliu, and Iwo Jima know better. An empty beach is not a gift, it is a message. And the message is simple. The enemy wants you to walk inland. By the end of April 1st, the beachhead stretches 14.5 kilometers. American lines push nearly 5 kilometers inland. The island is nearly severed at its waist. 60,000 troops are ashore. Fewer than 60 casualties are reported. It is, by every metric, the most successful major landing of the Pacific Campaign. But it is also the most misleading. Because somewhere beneath the limestone ridges, the 32nd Japanese Army is watching the Americans advance with calm patience. Colonel Yahara's plan is unfolding exactly as intended. Let the Americans land. Let them come deep. Then let them strike the stone. Only when the Americans commit their full strength inland will the Japanese spring the trap. For now, the defenders remain silent shadows. American commanders divide the push. Northward, Marine divisions. 1st Marine Division, 6th Marine Division. They begin sweeping the Motobu Peninsula. This area is rugged, forested, difficult to traverse. And yet Japanese resistance is scattered and uncoordinated. Most defenders here are construction troops, garrison forces, small detachments, lightly armed pockets. Even so, the Marines face ambushes, snipers, and a brief but fierce fight at Mount Yataki. But compared to the storms waiting in the south, Motobu is a breeze before a typhoon. Within days, the peninsula is secured. A rare victory that gives the Americans optimism, and optimism they will soon lose. While Marines advance north, 4 divisions turn south. 7th Infantry Division, 96th Infantry Division, 1st Marine Division after redeployment, 6th Marine Division, later stages. The first signs appear on the 3rd day. Mortar fire from invisible angles. Snipers shooting from what appear to be natural cracks in the rock. Small forward outposts that vanish after firing. The terrain tightens. The ridges rise, the valleys narrow. The American advance slows from kilometers per day to meters. Ahead lies the first line of the Shuri defenses, a system of ridges that will consume thousands of lives. On April 8th, the 96th Infantry Division slams into Kakazu Ridge. What looks like a simple coral rise from a distance becomes a nightmare up close. The Japanese have hollowed out entire sections of the ridge, dug tunnels that link firing points, created hidden exits behind American lines, placed machine guns on reverse slopes, prepared positions invulnerable to naval shelling. American artillery fires tens of thousands of rounds. The explosions make little difference. Enemies appear only at the moment of attack, shoot, then vanish into the coral like smoke. Day after day, the same pattern unfolds. Americans climb the forward slope. Machine guns cut them down. Grenades rain from unseen angles. Snipers pin medics to the ground. Night counterattacks push survivors back. Tanks attempt to support the infantry, but ravines trap them. Anti-tank guns fire from caves. Terrain splits units apart. After 2 weeks of grinding combat, the Americans lose hundreds. The Japanese lose thousands. The front barely moves. The message is clear. Okinawa will not be another Saipan. It will be a long, brutal attrition unlike anything the Pacific has seen. Even as the land battle intensifies, the sea erupts into its own hell. On April 6th, Japan launches the first great Kikusui wave, a coordinated kamikaze assault involving 350 suicide aircraft, hundreds of fighters and bombers, small explosive-laden boats, coordinated strikes across picket lines. Destroyers stationed as radar picket ships bear the brunt: USS Bush, USS Colhoun, USS Emmons, USS Newcomb. Many are sunk or burning hulks within hours. A single day claims dozens of ships damaged, hundreds of sailors killed, entire decks melted under flaming gasoline. For those serving at sea, Okinawa becomes the costliest naval battle in American history. One sailor describes a kamikaze's final dive. "I saw the pilot's face, and then everything turned white." On April 7th, the pride of the Imperial Navy, the battleship Yamato, sails toward Okinawa on a one-way mission. No air cover, no chance of survival, only a plan to beach the massive ship and turn her guns toward the invasion fleet. American radar picks up the formation. Within hours, more than 300 carrier aircraft strike. Torpedoes rip through her hull. Bombs smash into her decks. The great ship burns, capsizes, and explodes in a massive white fireball. Nearly 3,000 sailors die. The last symbol of Japanese naval power sinks beneath the waves. The ocean grows still again, as if swallowing the last echo of Japan's surface fleet. By mid-April, the American command realizes the truth. The Japanese are not broken. The Japanese are not desperate. The Japanese are deliberately dragging the Americans south. The landing was not a victory. It was the opening move of the Japanese plan. The turning point is no longer the beaches. It is the ridges. And every ridge, Kakazu, Dakeshi, Sugarloaf, Horseshoe, Half Moon, Conical, will need to be taken the same way. By foot, by fire, by hand, by blood. The trap has closed. The battle has reached its pivot. The Americans now face the real Okinawa, and nothing about the next 60 days will resemble the first 24 hours. By mid-May 1945, the rain begins to fall over Okinawa. First as scattered droplets mixing with dust, then as sheets of water that batter temporary shelters, wash down the ridges and finally turn the southern half of the island into a drowning world of mud and decay. What had been farmland, stone paths, and small villages transforms into a pulsing mass of knee-deep mud, collapsing ravines, hills slick as oil, flooded shell craters. Yet one thing does not dissolve in the rain: the Japanese defense. It becomes stronger. American troops begin to understand the truth. The enemy has not been driven back by storms. The enemy has been waiting for them inside the storms. From far away, Sugarloaf Hill looks insignificant, barely 15 meters high, shaped like a mound of earth rather than a battlefield centerpiece. But beneath its thin layer of soil lies an entire lattice of tunnels linking Sugarloaf to two sister hills, Horseshoe Hill, Half Moon Hill. Together, they form a triangle of fire that covers every approach. The danger is not its height. The danger is geometry. From the moment Marines climb its slope, machine guns on Horseshoe rake them from the side. Mortars from Half Moon fall behind them. Snipers fire from tunnels underneath. Grenades roll down from unseen cracks. Morning, the Marines take the crest. Afternoon, counterattacks push them off. Night, the hill erupts again, shadows charging through rain. A Marine sergeant writes, "Sugarloaf wasn't a hill. It was a mouth, and we kept climbing straight into it." Sugarloaf's design, natural and man-made, creates full exposure on the ascent. Zero cover on the summit, interlocking fields of fire, sniper nests hidden behind coral folds. The Japanese do not defend the surface. They defend from under it. Flamethrowers scorch the entrance. Demolitions blast the front. But defenders slip out of rear exits, reappear behind American units, and fight from angles no map can predict. The terrain defeats the Americans' most powerful weapon is slopes too steep, mud too deep, anti-tank guns hidden in cave mouths, enfilading fire from the sister hills. When a Zippo tank is pierced, The tank erupts into an inferno, burning the entire crew alive. Sugarloaf turns armor into tombs. Japanese engineers design their defensive network like an insect hive of firing chambers. Blind tunnels, multiple exits, false entrances, reverse slope galleries. An American platoon might suppress a cave entrance, only to be hit from a crawl hole behind them. One soldier writes, "You never knew where the next shot came from, only that it was already too late." Horseshoe Hill is less steep than Sugarloaf, but far more deceptive. The rain turns the ridge into knee-deep mire, suction pits that trap boots, sludge that jams rifles, bogs that swallow stretchers and wounded men. Many casualties drown in the very holes meant to protect them. A corpsman notes, "The ground opened its mouth and took anyone who couldn't stand on their own." At night, Japanese soldiers crawl through brush, slip between rocks, throw grenades from arm's length, retreat before flare light touches them. Many Marines go 70 hours without sleep, not because they're fighting, but because they fear closing their eyes. Half Moon Hill's structure forces close combat. Unlike Iwo Jima's static defense, Okinawa's defenders move like shadows, hidden pathways, drop shafts, crawl tunnels, multi-exit chambers. They appear, fight, and vanish into the coral. At Half Moon, Marines fight with entrenching tools, knives, rifle butts, bare hands, stones pulled from mud. It is no longer a battle between armies. It is survival between bodies. Conical Hill is the highest point in the entire ridge complex. Every slope is covered by machine guns, snipers, hidden anti-tank guns. To clear each cave, Americans must combine Zippo tanks blasting fire into main entrances, grenade teams sealing escape holes, demolition squads collapsing interior chambers. Japanese defenders flee from one exit straight into American guns. Many defenders strap grenades to their bodies and charge through flames. A Marine recalls, "He ran through the fire, burning, screaming, still coming at us." Combat at Okinawa breaks men in ways unseen in previous battles. Reports describe severe exhaustion, trench hallucinations, uncontrollable tremors, emotional shutdown, soldiers temporarily unable to speak, combat fatigue unlike anything in the Pacific. General Buckner himself notes, "We have entered a battlefield no American force has known." The defenders suffer as brutally as the attackers. A handful of rice per day, contaminated water, starvation hollowing out entire regiments, caves packed with wounded rot in the dark. Explosions drain oxygen. Men faint before they reach the surface. For most Japanese soldiers, surrender is disgrace. Escape is impossible. Survival is unlikely. A diary entry reads, "I am no longer a soldier. I am only a shadow. But the shadow will fight." By late May, Sugarloaf falls, Conical Hill falls, Horseshoe and Half Moon collapse. Japanese reserves are depleted. Tunnels are filled with bodies. Ammunition is almost gone. Ushijima receives the final reports. "We cannot hold." Yet he orders one last withdrawal to the southern cliffs. On May 29th, American troops enter Shuri Castle. They raise the flag. They declare the heart of the defense broken. But the Japanese have already escaped into Mabuni, Kunishi, Yaijudake. The terrain ahead is worse, the caves deeper, the mud thicker, the defenders more desperate. The hell still has one more layer. What makes southern Okinawa unique is not the casualties, but the quality of suffering. It is a battlefield where soldiers cannot see their enemy. Civilians die believing lies. Rain destroys every tool. Exhaustion becomes a weapon. Mud becomes a grave. Stone becomes a labyrinth. Bodies, rock, steel, water, and fire merge into one landscape. A field medic writes, "You could smell the battle before you reached it. You could taste it in the mud. You could feel it on your skin long after you walked away." This is why Okinawa becomes the most horrifying battle of the Pacific, not because of how many died, but how they died and where they died. June 1945. The rain does not stop. It falls on burned villages, on collapsed ridges, on the mouths of caves that now serve as homes, hospitals, and tombs. The southern half of Okinawa, once farmland and quiet footpaths, has become a drowned wasteland. Nothing remains recognizable, no houses, no trees, no clear roads, only mud, stone, craters, and bodies. In this ruin, the remnants of the 32nd Japanese Army, starving, wounded, exhausted, gather in their last shelters, Mabuni, Kunishi Ridge, Yaijudake. These are their final redoubts. If they fall, the battle ends. But for those still alive, soldier or civilian, the end no longer means relief. It means only death. By June, tens of thousands of civilians flee through the rubble, trying to outrun the battle that now covers the entire South. They squeeze into caves, clutching small bundles, wearing rags soaked in mud. They have no water, no food, no medicine, no safe direction. Propaganda has done its work. Americans are monsters. Capture means torture. Death is preferable. Families carry grenades, knives, ropes. Tools meant not for defense, but for suicide. Children huddle against their mothers, shaking with hunger. The wounded moan in the dark. The elderly collapse on footpaths, unable to continue. One survivor recalls, "We didn't think we were people anymore. We were just shadows running between bombs and the dead." Inside the caves, some suffocate from overcrowding. Some die from infection. Some starve. Some simply give up. And many are forced out by Japanese soldiers searching for food. It becomes one of the greatest civilian tragedies of World War II. The Japanese defenders are no longer an army. They are fragments of one. Their condition is catastrophic, ammunition nearly gone, water contaminated, rations reduced to a handful of rice, wounded piled in tunnels, officers bleeding beside their men. No hope of reinforcement, no hope of escape. Reports from within the caves describe scenes that defy words. Underground hospitals filled with unburied bodies. Soldiers dying of infection before seeing a single American. Corpses stacked because no one can dig graves. The rain washing soil away, uncovering the dead again. A Japanese officer writes in his final entry, "We are dissolving. No one is whole anymore. Not in body, not in spirit." Kunishi Ridge rises like a jagged wall across the southern plain. Japanese forces make their last organized stand here. The Americans face withering machine gun fire, anti-tank ambushes from cave mouths, mud that stops vehicles cold, rain that makes every advance a crawl. Between June 10th and June 12th, the Japanese hurl their final counterattacks. No artillery, no tanks, no support. Only grenades, rifles, bayonets, and desperation. Small groups of 5 or 6 charge through darkness, shouting, "Tenoheika Banzai!" Not as a tactic, but as a final cry from men who know they will not see sunrise. An American soldier remembers, "You heard them sliding in the mud? Then the scream dash dash." It wasn't human. Yaijudake, a limestone ridge twisted by nature into sharp folds, serves as Ushijima's final headquarters. The caves here overlook entire valleys, are shielded by natural stone, contain observation points invisible from the air. It is a fortress made by geology itself. But by June, the defenders inside are starving, feverish, too weak to carry weapons, fighting on willpower alone. Many die in sitting positions, backs against cave walls, rifles still clutched in their hands. By now, mud claims more American casualties than Japanese fire. The mud swallows boots, buries equipment, jams rifles, drowns wounded men in shell holes, immobilizes tanks, rots food, ruins medical gear, makes radio communications impossible. One medic notes, "It felt like the ground was killing us. Not the Japanese, the ground." The battlefield becomes a world where weapons rust within hours, grenades fail to detonate, flamethrowers clog, maps disintegrate, exhaustion turns men into ghosts. Okinawa becomes the hell of mud. On June 18th, General Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr. moves to a forward position near Ibaru Ridge to observe the front. A Japanese shell strikes a coral outcrop. Shards pierce Buckner's chest. He dies within minutes. He becomes the highest-ranking American officer killed by enemy fire in World War II. A stark reminder that no one is safe. A symbol of the battle's relentlessness. For many troops, Buckner's death is the moment they finally understand Okinawa doesn't spare anyone. Inside a cave at Mabuni, General Ushijima and his chief of staff, General Isamu Cho, share their last meal. The mood is somber, calm, inevitable. Ushijima gives Colonel Yahara his final order. You must live. Someone must tell what happened here. Shortly after midnight, the generals step outside onto a prepared mat. Ushijima faces east, toward Japan, kneels and performs seppuku. Cho follows moments later. With their deaths, the 32nd Army ceases to exist. The Battle of Okinawa is over. On June 23rd, American troops move through Mabuni. What they find defies imagination. Bodies of Japanese soldiers still in firing positions. Civilians dead in family groups across cave floors. Children lying beside mothers. Grenades used for suicide. Ropes, knives, broken vials of poison. Final letters written with shaking hands. Survivors too traumatized to speak. One American writes, I thought I understood war. Okinawa told me I didn't. American losses: 12,500 killed or missing. 36,000 wounded. Hundreds suffering psychological collapse. Dozens of ships sunk or crippled. Japanese military losses: 110,000 killed, 7,000 captured. Okinawan civilians: 80,000 to 140,000 dead, nearly one-third of the population, a level of destruction unmatched anywhere in the Pacific Theater. Before Okinawa, American planners estimate that invading Japan will cost perhaps 250,000 casualties. After Okinawa, projections rise above 1 million. Truman receives reports stating Japan will fight as fiercely as Okinawa. The U.S. orders hundreds of thousands of Purple Hearts in preparation. Okinawa leads directly to a single decision: use the atomic bomb or sacrifice an entire generation. 45 days later, Hiroshima and Nagasaki burn. The war ends. The shadow of Okinawa stretches all the way into that decision. Okinawa forces questions that battle reports cannot answer. What does desperation turn humans into? How far can a nation push its people in the name of honor? What does victory mean when civilians die in greater numbers than soldiers? Can a battlefield become a warning for the future? Today, at Mabuni's Peace Memorial, the stones read, "The souls of all, military and civilian, friend and foe, rest here." Okinawa is more than a final battle. It is a graveyard carved into coral, an island reshaped by fire, a reminder that war's greatest cost is borne by those who never chose to fight. In the quiet that hangs over the memorials, you can almost hear the echo of one truth. No one wanted Okinawa. Not the Americans, not the Japanese, not the island itself.